On episode 316 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Magdalena Wszelaki and discuss her book, Cooking for Hormone Balance. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/316. This podcast is sponsored by Fresh Pressed Olive Oil Club. They have some of the best fresh pressed olive oil shipped directly to your home. This is a very awesome club because, olive oil is hard to get in good quality. I mean, to find really good quality olive oil is a task in and of itself. It's really hard to find on store shelves because you just don't know how long it's been there. But Fresh Press solves that problem by shipping some of the freshest olive oil directly to your home. And this is right after it's pressed, right there in the countries where it's pressed. So your olive oil is coming directly from the places where they're finding some of the best olive oil on earth. I love it. I use it almost every day, and I know you're going to love it too. And just for you to try it, they want to give you a retail value $39 bottle of their olive oil for $1. If you go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/olive oil, you can get your Fresh Pressed Olive Oil Club $39 retail value bottle of olive oil for just $1. Just try it out. Check it out. It's only going to cost you $1. You don't have to buy anything else. I really appreciate you supporting the podcast and supporting the sponsor. Go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/olive oil. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Allan. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Hello, and thank you for being a part of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. Really excited to have you here this week. We're going to have a great guest. Before I introduce our guest, though, I did want to talk about a couple different things. I've been spending some time this week looking into how I can improve the sound quality of the podcast, and I am trying to use a different type of software. I hope that it's helping. If it is helping, and you are finding that the quality of the sound is better and you're enjoying this maybe a little bit better, please do reach out. You can go to our Facebook group at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/group, or you can email me directly, Allan at 40plusfitnesspodcast. I'm interested in hearing what you think. One of the only bad reviews we've gotten on the podcast, and by bad, I mean it wasn't a 5-star review, did speak to sound quality. So I'm trying to up my game a little bit there and make this a slightly better listening experience for you. So if you're enjoying the podcast, please do share it, obviously. Please do give us a rating and review. I don't have any new ratings and reviews to read this week, so I can't. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/review and leave us a review. And that would really, again, help me make this a better podcast. I do read each of those emails, each of those messages. I do pay attention to what they say. And sometimes I'm a little slow in getting around to it, but I do try to work on the things that you want in the podcast. And someone did say sound quality was something that was important to them. And I am trying to work on that now, albeit it's been a little while. But if you're liking the sound quality, please do let me know. And please do give us a rating and review on iTunes. I did also want to kind of talk about the online personal training that I've been doing. I really enjoy working with folks that way. I want to continue to be able to do that. So if you're interested in signing on with us, the summer is coming up. Everybody is, right now their mindset's probably starting to turn towards bathing suit season. I know my wife, she gets the packages in, tries them on. She can ship them back if she doesn't like them. But she's ordered a few bathing suits because we've got a trip planned in June to go to the beach and go to some beaches. And so she's really excited about that. She's getting some bathing suits in. But if you're kind of dreading bathing suit season, maybe want to try to lose a little bit of weight between now and then, I would encourage you to go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/lose-it. That's lose-it at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com. You can also go there and click the Train with Allan button on the 40plusfitnesspodcast.com site. Train with Allan. It should take you to lose-it is the URL, and then it'll probably forward you somewhere else. That's where I talk about the group training. Now, with the group training, you basically have access to the coaching. It's the fitness coaching, the nutrition coaching. You have access to a community. We have the weekly conference calls, which are a lot like a podcast episode, but you're like in the studio audience. And so you can ask questions directly. And if you don't even have a question about the topic, you can ask off topic questions as well. It's a big Q&A. It's a big opportunity for you to work and speak to me directly. The community's there to support you, to keep you accountable. I'm there to keep you accountable. I'm there to provide you the guidance. So you get all the support. It's basically walk you through the process with you, done with you training. And so you get everything that you need to reach your health and fitness goals. So if you do want to lose a little bit of weight before we get into the summer season, now is a perfect time to sign up. If you go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/lose-it, you can learn more about the group online personal training. I do offer the one-on-one, but that's an application process. If you're interested in something like that, that's a little bit more intensive, gets a lot more results, to be honest. But if you're interested in something more than that, email me at allan@40plusfitnesspodcast.com, and I can send you a link to the application, and we can talk about whether the one-on-one or the VIP training is appropriate for you. But for everyone that's just interested in getting into a program, it's a group program. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/lose-it, and you can learn more about 40 Plus Fitness online personal training. Now, our guest today is an integrative hormone and nutrition expert, which basically means she helps people reorganize and basically fix their hormone issues through nutrition. Now, she's coming at it from someone who really needed this type of advice, this type of help. And there really wasn't anyone out there that was providing the guidance in a way that she could really incorporate all of it. So she just took a keen interest in ways that she could fix her own body without medications. And in looking at the nutrition and what she could do with the nutrition, she fixed a lot of her own problems. So that's how she kind of got into this. And she's really kind of dedicated her life to really understanding how nutrition affects our hormone balances. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode. You're going to get a lot out of it. With no further ado, here's Magdalena Wszelaki. So Magdalena, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Hey, Allan, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
You know, when the publisher reached out to me about having you on the podcast, and I saw Cooking for Hormone Balance, I was like, okay, another cookbook. And yeah, this is an important topic because, you know, quite literally, how your hormones go or how your health goes. So you're either going to be healthy or you're going to be sick if your hormones are out of balance or in balance. And I thought, okay, yeah, this is just going to have me some great recipes for people that want to kind of balance out their hormones. But it's much deeper than that. You have complete comprehensive programs. You have little kind of 14-day quick fixes, like one for testosterone that I read in there. And I'm like, you know, this is really cool because not only are you telling us what foods to cook and how to prepare them and the whole bit, but you also get into why these foods are doing for us what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's one of the things that just irritates the hell out of me. It's when you open up a magazine and it just gives you this very superficial, you know, advice of eat these 3 foods and eat, you know, lose 20 pounds, right? You know, kind of, which for some women might work, for majority of women, it doesn't. And I find that there is a very large percentage of the population, women who are truly intelligent and who've tried a lot of things, but also have hit a wall when it comes to meeting their objectives, right? Whether it's energy or weight or just how we look and how we feel in our bodies. And this is where I really felt that combining the, you know, just recipes, but offering a lot of context of what's so great about these particular foods, what's the science behind these foods. I think that's very empowering. And when we understand the I don't want to say biochemistry in some ways, but I made it much simpler than that.
Yes.
If you understand what's so great about these foods, right, and how it supports your hormones, your digestion, your blood sugar levels, your liver function, right, then, you know, you're much more compelled to work with them. And I think I want to honor that, you know, the smart women out there who want to have solutions more than just superficial stuff that we get all around the internet and magazines, and go deeper into what's going on.
Yeah, because you kind of got it on both sides. You've got the magazines that are trying to give you that quick fix of, you know, like you said, eat these 3 foods. And then, or you got your doctor that's like, oh, well, your thyroid's a little low. Let's just give you this pill. And so, you know, but there's very few people, and thanks now to your book, now there's this kind of reference in the middle to say if we change the types of foods that we're eating, it's not just one or two, it's really a plethora of good health promoting foods, and perhaps avoiding some foods that are causing us some problems, that we're going to get to a much better state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's really what the book is about, and I built the recipes actually around the whole process, Allan, was based on the 20 superfoods the superfoods, and then the 20 super herbs, spices, and medicinal mushrooms. So those are the 40 foods we know today that's been well studied, and there is, we know there is solid science behind them, what they can do for our, not just hormones, but also our digestion, blood sugar levels, liver health. And, and that's how I developed the recipes. Yet these foods are easily obtainable in most health stores. There is a couple of, I have more exotic ingredients that you might need to order from the internet, but the baseline recipes are all the stuff that you can get from your health store every day.
Yeah. And these are not complicated recipes either. These are fairly simple recipes. There's a lot of ingredients because you want to try to get as much of those top foods and herbs and spices in there. But in a general sense, like I said, it's all kind of spelled out for you. The recipes are there, and it kind of walks you through. Now, I want to take a step back, and I want to talk about why you're so passionate about this issue. You went through some fairly significant health issues yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, in 2008, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. But when I look back at my health, it's an accumulation of things, everything from not being a breastfed baby. I was a formula baby. My mom bought into this 1970s craziness of formula being more nutritious than a mother's milk. So my immune system was very weak right from the beginning. I've always suffered from, I most definitely, when I do a bacterial flora testing on my gut, I have a very little variety of gut bacteria, which we now know today. The more variety you have, the better it is, which is very typical for children who have not been breastfed. Always struggle with eczema, ear infections. And then later when I was in my early 20s, these food sensitivities manifested in different ways, and it just changed to cystic acne, PMSs, continued sinus and ear infections. That cystic acne was just absolutely horrible, especially for a young woman. It's just really, it just takes the confidence out of you. And then I had most likely Graves' disease. I was diagnosed with hyperactive thyroid in my late 20s, was given a pill, like just as you said, I was given a pill, I was declared healed. And of course, I never addressed the autoimmune component of the disease, which I had no idea about it back then. And, and it came back with a vengeance in 2008. I was finally diagnosed with Hashimoto's based on my symptoms as just being absolutely exhausted and couldn't get out of bed, swinging between being super energetic to being totally deflated. Horrible mood swings. And, Allan, I just became a person I just didn't recognize anymore. For the first time in my life, started having anxiety attacks, started doing some really stupid things that later when I look back at it, I was like, what was I thinking? And so this is where I realized that if I don't change something in my life, I will, essentially, I'm going to be on the ground, just completely, I'm going to be a wreck. And so I was living in China at that point when I was diagnosed, and I made humongous changes. Within the next 2 years, I quit my job and went to nutrition school. I ended up setting up my practice. I didn't go back to the industry I was in. I used to work in advertising. So I set up my own practice, and, I've been doing this for almost a decade. And I have to tell you that today, as a 45-year-old woman, I feel better than I have felt when I was 25. When I was 25, I was always bloated, walking around with terrible headaches, feeling tired a lot of the time, having naps in the afternoons after meals, right? I mean, none of that now. And so, that's the reason. And how all of this came to happen is definitely a big part of it was changes in my diet, also lifestyle, and detoxification, just general, on every level. And that's why I'm such a big proponent, because I know it works. And as I started working with more women and started realizing that really food is medicine. Food can be medicine if we do it right. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yes. And now what I really like about your program in particular is that you don't have just this one thing and say, let's just fix this one thing and everything's going to be joy, joy, happy, happy. You kind of acknowledge that you really have to look at this from three different perspectives, like the legs of a stool, and you've got to have that balance in there. And you've got to get them even, as you say in the book, because if one leg's off or not even, then it's going to unsettle the way the stool sits. And your program is very much like that, making you look at all three areas and getting them shored up. Now, the first one you start off with is digestive health. And I agree with you there, but can you tell us why you want to work on your digestive health first?
So there's a whole big chapter in that, right? But in a nutshell, it's first of all, when I talk about digestive health, is you want to look at your symptoms, and if you're struggling with things like constipation, loose stool, acid reflux, burping, being bloated, being gassy, right? Those are all signs that the digestion is struggling. Whether it's because you have some pathogenic bacteria going on, parasites, or whether you just have food sensitivities going on, right? It needs to be eradicated. And the reason why is because that creates a huge stress on the body. We perceive that stress as being something that happens, when at work or with financial stuff and in family, right? Drama is going on, that's stress. But the interesting thing is that we can also be experiencing physiological stress that's coming from digestive imbalance. And you might not be aware of that, but listeners might not be aware of that, but whenever for example, when you're constipated, when you're having this constant, bloating going on, right? Your body's actually really struggling with processing, breaking down the foods. And that causes a cortisol release, which is a stress response, right? And so as much as we, and really your adrenal health and cortisol is like the foundation of good hormonal balance, right? So that can just throw everything off. A couple of other things is like the digestive health and the small intestine, everybody's now aware of the good bacteria, right? Well, guess what? There is a subset of bacteria in the gut called the estrobolome, and the estrobolome codes for enzymes that are basically breaking down estrogens. And estrogen dominance, and it's one of the leading causes of things like estrogen positive breast cancers, fibrocystic breast, endometriosis, fibroids, which so many women struggle with, but also thyroid nodules, thyroid cancer, right? All due to estrogen dominance, and not to mention even things like having terrible PMSs is all due to estrogen dominance. So who would have thought, right, that the bugs in your gut can actually dictate how your estrogen is, cleared out and detoxified in your body, right? So it doesn't do all that damage that I talked about. One more thing I'll mention about digestion, why is this so important, is that when we're having estrogen dominance or as a hormonal imbalance, that can contribute towards creation of gallstones, right? And so in our society, the medical profession approaches the gallbladder as like this useless organ, right? We just get it removed. It's not a big deal. And, an interesting thing is, and I'm sure your listeners will relate to this, if you had your gallbladder removed, a lot of times 3 to 6 months later, women start having quite a lot of health problems, including a lot of hormonal issues. And that's something doctors don't tell you. We remove about 250,000 gallbladders every year, completely unnecessarily. Many of them are unnecessary. Of course, if somebody is really sick, that's a different story. And the reason why I say this is because the gallbladder stores what's called the bile, and the bile is also what causes the binding of a lot of the different hormones, that metabolites that are toxic for the body. The bile binds them and evacuates them through your poop. Something that a lot of people don't realize is that the way the body, we create hormones, and then these hormones get metabolized in the liver, they get separated out in the liver, and we poop them out, right? So when you're having problems with gallbladder, you have insufficient bile, then going to the bathroom becomes a problem. And on that point, Allan, when you talk about digestion, constipation is something a lot of women struggle with. Like if you just walk into CVS, and see how many products they are for as laxatives, right? That kind of tells the magnitude of the problem. And
because I was actually in the store the other day. Our dog was having some issues, and so we went to buy some Imodium, and like you said, the entire 4-foot rack, was all laxatives and stuff like that, and then just right there at the bottom corner, they had the Imodium tucked in there. I'm like, there's lots of people that are suffering from trying to go. And I just thought, it's just bizarre, the number of medicines in different ways. But so, I get you there.
I mean, we approach constipation from a perspective of like, it's good, it's uncomfortable, right? But it's hugely important to overall good health and including hormonal health. Because like I said, if you don't you don't have a good poop every day, at least once, twice a day, like well-formed, to be feeling emptied, right? It's a problem because these hormones are going to re-enter, not to mention just the hormones, but also other toxins will re-enter your bloodstream, and it's going to be causing a lot of havoc. So, who would have thought, right? Like most people don't connect really the dots, like my digestion, the hormones, like I got low progesterone. I need to work on my progesterone, nothing to do with my digestion. Yeah. Well, not really.
Yeah. And so what you do is in your programming here is you're basically, we're going through an elimination diet. And I like the way you presented it because you identified, the 7 big items to eliminate and then 7 smaller ones. Could you kind of go into those a little bit and talk about how we would structure this type of elimination diet?
Yeah, sure. So, there's different ways of doing the elimination diet, right? So, I based it on what works with the thousands of women I worked with. So the big 7 foods are basically gluten, dairy, eggs, soy, corn, nightshade vegetables, and peanuts, right? And nightshade vegetables are things like your tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, peppers, including chilies. That's why my cookbook is completely free of the first 7 items. Now, I'm not saying that every one of these foods is a problem. Generally, if you want to maintain good health, good hormonal health and digestive health, we want to eliminate as much as possible gluten and dairy. But the other food items is kind of subject to, how the body responds. And so the idea is that you eliminate these foods for 4 to 6 weeks, and then you reintroduce them one after the other in the space of 3 days. And your body will tell you how it responds to things. That's the beauty of it. One good example is eggs. Eggs are wonderful, right? They are just such a complete protein and, so easy to cook with them, right? Well, guess what? This is just from my observation, about 50% of the population I work with have problems with eggs. And so, so when you do the reintroduction, your body will tell you whether you feel really good on it, or do you have like your eczema coming back? You're feeling really tired, your pimples, like you start having pimples popping out, right? You can't sleep at night. Those are all signs your body's struggling with processing that food. So it's just basically a great detective tool to lower the inflammation in the body. And, we throw the word inflammation around so much, but it's a really powerful concept that not only would it help any chronic pain and, with weight, it's going to help with weight loss and skin conditions, the quality of sleep, but is also going to help you tremendously with how the hormones are produced. So that's the purpose of the elimination diet, is to lower the inflammation in the body. And then at the end of the process, figure out which are your troubled foods and which ones are perfectly great for you.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of interesting is, we have a relative reference to how we look and feel. This is how I feel when I wake up. This is how I look. A lot of times when folks will go on an elimination diet, they start feeling so much better. And now They realize, well, no, what I was feeling was not normal. I was sick and didn't even know it until I get myself healthy. So a good 4 to 6 weeks on an elimination diet, then with a slow reintroduction, you almost know immediately after you eat something that was not something your body really agrees with, but because you were eating it regularly before, you just really didn't have that reference.
Yeah, that's a really powerful thought, Allan. Exactly. We get used to feeling sick. And sometimes we forget what really healthy and energetic and positive really means and what it looks like. So you're right. And also, sometimes people, when people start the elimination diet, they're just even afraid to reintroduce these foods because they feel so great. So,
but I love chili, and so I'm going to have to reintroduce a nightshade after something like that. But that's what I'm saying is then you find out, and you come to realize, okay, I can actually handle nightshades. That's not what my problem was, and then maybe you try to reintroduce nuts, and realize, okay, I'm a little sensitive to them because my body just doesn't feel good on them. Now that I have my new normal.
Exactly.
So now we go through this process, and I think it's pretty easy for folks to see if we're talking about 4 to 6 weeks of going through the elimination diet, and then we start trying to reintroduce things, or maybe we just need a little bit more time, because you even go into kind of a deeper dive program if after they've started working on it, they're still not quite where they want to be. There's some additional things you have in the book that they can do. But we get to that point where we feel like we've kind of honed in on what food we feel good on and what's working for us. The next leg of the stool effectively then is our blood sugar levels.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Yeah, so, as you can probably hear, I'm not American, and I moved to the United States 10 years ago. One of the biggest shockers, Allan, I have to tell you, is that how much sugar is in everything in America, and how much sugar people consume, how sweet things are people consume without even realizing what they're putting in their bodies. So, and a lot of times it's not a fault of our own. I mean, that kind of stuff is not being taught at schools, like how to convert the grams that we find in the sugar to actual amount. So a quick pointer here, 4 grams of sugar is 1 teaspoon. So take a look at even, all the juices that advertise as being green and healthy and is going to energize you and all that, right? I mean, they can be as high as having 30 to 40 grams of sugar. So you do the math, that's like between 8 to 10 teaspoons of sugar. I mean, would you be sitting like right now where you are and be eating, like putting 8 teaspoons of sugar, white sugar in your body? You wouldn't do that, right? Yeah. And so, even though people might say, well, but that's processed sugar and this is all in fruit, it doesn't actually really matter. So blood sugar levels is a huge issue so many people in the United States have a problem with. You have a problem when you get hungry and you start feeling shaky, unfocused, dizzy, we get in a really bad mood. And that's when you're going into in a low blood sugar level called hypoglycemia, right? And of course, we have the other side of the spectrum, which is when hypoglycemia continues for a long time, then you go into the other spectrum, which is hyperglycemia. And that's when you have things like insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, right? And why is it important to your hormones? Well, insulin is the name of the game here. It can completely throw your hormones off. When you struggle with blood sugar levels, you are in a constant state of inflammation that I talked about at the beginning, right? And you want to put the inflammation down if you want to have a good hormonal balance. And lastly, something that a lot of people don't realize is that the adrenals take on the responsibility of rebalancing our blood sugar levels. So let me give you an example. A lot of times people do like something really sweet before going to bed. Like the worst things you can do is having like a whole bowl of ice cream, right, before going to bed. And then they wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, right, and they go like, oh, I had to pee. Actually, it's not a pee most of the time that happens because your bladder is large enough to hold enough liquid unless you drink like lots of water, truly. But most people should be able to sleep through the night. What wakes us up a lot of the time is the sugar spikes. And when your sugar drops, like after having a sugar bump at night, before going to bed, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, your blood sugar levels drop. And guess what? Is the adrenals that will be then tasked with having to rebalance your blood sugar levels back on again. And so that's what wakes us up, right? And not to mention you're taxing your adrenals like crazy. So, so that's the big deal about blood sugar levels. And I can tell you that when women rebalance their blood sugar levels, cravings start going away, energy levels is so well sustained throughout the day, weight starts going down, especially women with blood sugar levels have a lot of problems carrying weight around their bellies, right? So the metabolic kind of disorder. And, we sleep so much better. We don't crave sugar anymore. We don't crave caffeine. It's anxiety. I mean, so many people have anxiety attacks because the blood sugar level drops, which they don't realize. So huge changes. And, Allan, one of the biggest things I'm a huge advocate of is doing a savory kind of breakfast that's not full of sugar. It's sugar, it's a breakfast that it's, I call it a PFF kind of breakfast, protein, fat, and fiber kind of a breakfast, which, is one of my favorites in the book is called the Farmer's Wife's Breakfast. Lots of greens, a piece of lamb, some sauerkraut, piece of avocado for some good fat, sprinkled with some flaxseed on top, right? Nothing sweet about it except for a little bit of the pomegranate. And, that's something that will give you so much energy throughout the day. You sleep so much better. You feel grounded, energized, clear in the head, not needing caffeine or sugar 2-3 hours later to pick up your energy again. Just huge changes. Totally worth it.
Yeah. And so we spend about a month now eating the types of foods that are going to help us maintain a level blood sugar. We're going to kind of see some of the benefits of that because our insulin's going to kind of figure things out. We're going to be in a pretty good place there. And so now we get to the third leg, and now we're going to work on making our liver more healthy.
That is correct. And I have to tell you, this is something kind of, I always find it really fascinating that when I was going through my hormonal issues, and estrogen dominance was one big one, apart from my thyroid, I thought, why is it nobody talks about having to work on your liver when you have estrogen problems? And, whether it's high or low. And so the fascinating thing about the liver is that there are different elimination pathways. And basically, every one of these pathways binds something, whether it's a virus or a toxin or heavy metal or bacteria or yeast or parasite or hormone, for that matter, that utilize, the metabolize, they use that hormones that we want to get rid of. And so supporting your liver is so huge, and giving it the right nutrition so they can bind up those hormones that need to be evacuated. So a couple of examples here would be, for example, sulfur is one of the compounds that's needed for the sulfation pathway. So what this translates to is that if you want to support your liver, bring on the beautiful cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli sprouts, cauliflower, kale, bok choy, arugula, which is my personal favorite, and they're high in sulfur. It's gonna just 2 or 3 servings a day, right? So like 2-3 cups a day, whether it's cooked or raw, doesn't really matter. It can hugely support the liver just right away. So that's that's something that I think a lot of us don't realize. And before we started the talk, our call, you mentioned thyroid. Something that a lot of your listeners are struggling with. And guess what? Speaking of thyroid, for women who take Synthroid, for example, right, synthetic form of the thyroid hormone, the T4 hormone, well, guess what? The conversion to T3, which is the bioavailable, the workhorse in your body, right, happens in the liver. And that's part of the reason why so many women, when they go to see the endocrinologist, they go, hey, doc, I'm already on this dose and I'm not feeling great. I'm still I'm lacking energy. It's getting worse and worse. I can't sleep, right? I'm putting on weight. My hair is falling out, and the doc goes, well, we're just going to increase by another 25 milligrams, right? And then nothing happens. And she's just not, nothing is changing. And a lot of times the reason why that happens is because the conversion of, the hormone that you're taking happens in the liver to the hormone that really powers you up. And so work on not increasing the doses, but work on clearing out the liver, and amazing things start happening.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the core of it is, if you methodically go through this process, you're going to start to feel and look better. You're probably at some point going to heal yourself well enough that you probably won't be on a lot of the meds that you're on. So people who are, dealing with the diabetes, people who are dealing with thyroid issues, they're on medicine. And eventually you probably get off of that medicine if you're really focused on getting this good balance going in your health through your digestion, your blood sugar, and your liver. So it's a really, really good program. And then where you take it in the book is that kind of that next thing is now we're going to go into a phase 2, and that's where we kind of get to maintaining and managing our lives going forward. But the recipes, and I can't let you get out of here without talking about a couple of your recipes. I'm fortunate enough, I live on the Gulf Coast, so getting fresh oysters is very, very easy for us. But there's this bacon, oysters, and collard greens stir fry that I'm dying to try. And I will be trying really, really soon here. But the cool thing, like I said, you've got a recipe here, but you're not just saying just eat this stuff, or I'd have to read the whole rest of the book to understand why this recipe is good for me. But you're specifically saying there's zinc, which is going to help for gut health, among other things. And then there's the collard greens, which are going to be the cruciferous vegetable that's going to help my liver. And so I just thought that was really, really cool how this is not just a recipe, but this is, like you said, food is medicine. You're telling us what this is going to do for us. And then the other was the fennel and coriander crusted liver. I can't get my wife to eat liver. I've tried, and she'll try a little bit and then say no. But when she goes out of town next time, I'm cooking that.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, liver is a tough one, right? And and I mean, I'll eat it too. I'm not the biggest fan, but the purpose of this recipe is to really to bring in that coriander, that cumin, and the fennel seed to it, that kind of mask, that gaminess of the liver. And what you just enjoyed is how creamy it is. But then there's the spices that really play the first role here. They are really the hero of this recipe.
Yeah, and so those are two that I'm really looking forward to trying. But there's a lot of them in there, and like I said, you make it very easy because you have the program. And then if there's specifics we want to focus on, like I saw, like I said, the 14-day testosterone, and you literally lay out a meal plan for us, 14-day meal plan of, here's this recipe for breakfast. You can go flip back in the book, and there it is. And here's this thing you're going to have for lunch. So you just make it very, very easy for us to go through a 14-day period of time to heal ourselves. So again, excellent book. I really appreciated how it was formatted and organized. And then of course, seeing recipes in there, just new ways to try new foods and the different spices and just different things that I can try. Really, really excited. So thank you for letting me go through that book. Now, if someone wanted to learn more about you and the book, where would you like for me to send them?
I think going to cookingforhormonebalance.com is a good starting point. It shows you what the book is, what's inside the book, and if you decide to get it, there is the different links that people can just go to, either Barnes and Nobles or Amazon or whatever. But the cool thing is that if you come back to this website, we have different bonuses for you. So like videos of the recipes, but also my kitchen makeover, something that I actually had to take out of the book because it was just we didn't have enough pages for it. So I decided to turn it into a short video program showing you how to detox your kitchen to support hormonal balance, right? So to get those bonuses, just come back to this website, enter your receipt number, and then we'll send you the whole folder of bonuses.
Well, like I said, it's a very comprehensive book, very comprehensive program. You even have a quiz in here that you can go through and just see if there's some issues that you want to focus on as you go through the different steps in phase one. But this is going to be episode 316. So you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/316, and I'll have the links and everything there. So again, Magdalena, thank you so much for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Allan, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Dr. Adam Nally and discuss his book, The Keto Cure, a low-carb, high-fat dietary solution to heal your body and optimize your health. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.